I never thought my 18-year-old son changing our Wi-Fi password would cause HOA President Martha Jenkins to storm straight into my house, screaming like a maniac, "How dare that brat cut off my internet!" There she stood in my living room, wearing that tight red HOA logo t-shirt she always had on, her curly brown hair looking like she'd just been struck by lightning, pointing directly at my son's face. At that moment, I was just an ordinary retired lawyer trying to enjoy my early retirement, but Martha had no idea that what she did today would be the biggest mistake of her entire life. But there was one thing she didn't know about me. I'm David Miller, 45 years old, a civil litigation attorney who retired early after 20 years in the profession. My son Jake, 18 years old, is a tech genius who's always tinkering with the latest gadgets and computer systems. We live in the Willowbrook neighborhood, where everything is controlled by the Homeowners Association. Martha Jenkins, 52 years old, calls herself the most powerful HOA president in the city. She always shows up wearing that same tight red t-shirt with the HOA logo plastered across the front like some kind of uniform, her brown curly hair perpetually in a state of chaos. But there was something about the way she always looked at my house that made me feel uneasy. And today, when Jake accidentally discovered a secret hidden in our Wi-Fi network system, everything started to make perfect sense. Before all this chaos began, Martha and I actually had a fairly normal relationship. When I first moved to Willowbrook 3 years ago, she even brought over welcome cookies and smiled warmly while asking about our Wi-Fi password. "Just for the neighborhood security system," she had said, with that fake sweet voice. I was naive enough to share our network information with her, thinking it was standard HOA procedure. "Miller 2023, I had told her, watching her carefully write it down in a little red notebook. She thanked me profusely and promised to keep our community safe. But everything changed when I refused to participate in her special project last fall. Martha had proposed a 200% HOA fee increase to upgrade the community network infrastructure. The proposal was vague, poorly written, and frankly suspicious. I used my legal knowledge to prove this fee increase was completely illegal and had no basis in our HOA agreement. During the community meeting, I stood up with my documents and calmly explained why the proposal violated state housing law. Martha's face turned bright red, matching her t-shirt perfectly. "Mr. Miller thinks he knows better than the entire HOA board," she had announced to the room, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Maybe he should move somewhere else if he doesn't like our community improvements." The room fell silent, and I knew I had made an enemy. From that moment on, our home Wi-Fi started having the strangest problems. The internet speed slowed to a crawl, especially during evening hours when we needed it most. Jake complained constantly that he couldn't play online games or stream movies without constant buffering and lag. "Dad, this is ridiculous," Jake said one evening, slamming his laptop shut in frustration. "I can't even load a simple web page. Our internet is supposed to be high-speed fiber." So I watched him struggle with his homework, unable to access online resources because our connection was practically useless. When I called our internet service provider, they insisted our connection was running perfectly fine. "Your bandwidth usage shows normal patterns, sir," the technician explained over the phone. "Maybe someone else is sharing your network without permission." That comment stuck with me for weeks. Then Martha began sending official warning letters about suspicious network activity coming from our address. The first letter arrived on official HOA letterhead, making it look legitimate and intimidating. The HOA monitoring system has detected unusual traffic patterns from 1247 Maple Street. Please investigate and report back immediately. The letter continued. Failure to comply may result in additional fines and potential legal action. She threatened to report illegal network activities to local authorities if we didn't comply with her demands within 72 hours. I stared at that letter, my legal instincts telling me something was seriously wrong. How could the HOA monitor our internet traffic? What kind of system was she referring to? The whole thing smelled like harassment disguised as official business. That's when Jake, with his impressive IT skills, decided to investigate what was really happening. "Dad, let me check our router logs," he said, pulling out his laptop and connecting to our network's admin panel. "If someone's monitoring our traffic, there should be evidence." Using his computer expertise, he discovered that at least 3 unknown devices were connected to our Wi-Fi network using saved passwords. One of those devices was clearly labeled Martha_iPhone, and another called HOA_laptop. Jake's eyes widened as he showed me the screen. "She's been stealing our internet for nearly 2 years, Jake exclaimed, pointing at the connection logs. "Look at these timestamps. She's online at our house more than we are. No wonder our internet is so slow." The situation escalated when I started questioning the ridiculous fines that kept appearing in our mailbox. Grass height exceeds 2.5 inches. $50 fine. The grass in question was barely visible and certainly not over any reasonable height limit. Garbage bin placed in wrong location. $75 fine. Our trash bin was exactly where it had been for 3 years, in the same spot as every other house on the street. Door paint color violates community standards. $100 fine. And our door was the same beige color it had been when we moved in, and I had the original paint receipts to prove it. But Martha took her revenge to the next level by deliberately sabotaging our network connection. She would start downloading massive files exactly when Jake needed to do his online homework, or when I had important video calls with clients. It was too perfectly timed to be coincidental. Every time I had a crucial business meeting, our internet would mysteriously slow down to unusable speeds. "I'm sorry, can you repeat that?" became my most common phrase during video conferences. "We're having some technical difficulties on our end." Martha had turned our own Wi-Fi into a weapon against us. One evening, I caught her red t-shirt through our kitchen window, standing in her backyard with her phone, clearly monitoring our network usage. When she saw me looking, she quickly disappeared back into her house. But I had seen enough to confirm my suspicions. Jake discovered she was downloading movies, software, and massive files during our peak usage hours. She's basically using our internet as her personal entertainment system, he told me, showing me the bandwidth usage charts. "And we're paying for it while getting terrible service." But she made one critical mistake. She didn't know that I wasn't just any ordinary civil attorney. What Martha didn't realize was that I wasn't just a simple civil litigation lawyer. I was formerly a senior prosecutor specializing in financial crimes and technology-related fraud. I had spent over 20 years handling hundreds of online fraud and computer intrusion cases. I had prosecuted hackers, identity thieves, and cybercriminals who thought they were smarter than the system. I had retired early because I was burned out from the constant battles, but my instinct for investigating cybercrime had never really gone away. The conflict reached nuclear levels when Martha began attacking other neighbors' networks to blame me for the problems. She sent out a mass email to the entire neighborhood, warning everyone about security breaches originating from our address. Residents should immediately change their Wi-Fi passwords to protect against illegal intrusion attempts. she announced during the next HOA meeting, her red shirt wrinkled from stress and her curly hair even more disheveled than usual. David Miller has installed viruses into our community's shared network system. Everyone needs to change their Wi-Fi passwords immediately to protect their personal information from this cyber terrorist. And the accusation was so outrageous that several neighbors actually started avoiding us. Mrs. Rodriguez stopped waving when we drove by. Mr. Thompson crossed the street instead of walking past our house. Martha was systematically destroying our reputation with lies and false accusations. In reality, she was the one stealing internet from at least 6 different families and downloading suspicious software that was causing all the network problems. Jake had traced the actual source of the viruses she mentioned. They were coming from Martha's own devices, infected with malware from illegal download sites. The final straw came this morning when Jake decided to change our Wi-Fi password from Miller 2023 to HOA is corrupt to stop the unauthorized access. It was a small act of rebellion, but it had massive consequences we never could have predicted. Martha went absolutely ballistic. Within minutes of the password change, she was pounding on our front door, her curly hair even more chaotic than usual from running over here in a panic. Her red HOA t-shirt was soaked with sweat, and her face was flushed with rage and desperation. "That little brat just destroyed the security system for the entire neighborhood!" she screamed as she pushed past me into our living room. "I was doing important work, and I need that network connection right now." Her voice was shaking with a combination of anger and fear. When Jake innocently asked, "What do you need our home network for, ma'am?" Martha accidentally revealed way too much information. "I was uploading HOA financial reports to the server. I need strong Wi-Fi to transfer large files, and I can't do it from my house because—" She stopped mid-sentence, realizing she had said too much. That's when I finally understood the complete picture. Martha wasn't just stealing our internet for personal use. She was using our bandwidth to hide her own illegal activities. Our connection was faster and more reliable than hers, and she had been conducting HOA business through our network to avoid leaving digital fingerprints on her own system. But the most terrifying part was that she had gained administrative access to our router and could have been monitoring all our online activities. She knew when we were home, when we were traveling, what websites we visited, and potentially even our passwords and personal information. With my 20 years of prosecutorial experience, I began a systematic investigation into Martha's activities. "Jake, I need you to run a complete audit of our network," I told my son. "Check every device, every connection, every file transfer. We need to document everything she's been doing." I asked Jake to check our Wi-Fi access logs and discovered that Martha wasn't just using our network. She was accessing at least 5 other families' internet connections throughout the neighborhood. She had an entire spreadsheet tracking all the Wi-Fi passwords she had collected from unsuspecting neighbors over the years. "Dad, look at this," Jake said, showing me his laptop screen. "She's got a whole system set up. Router passwords, admin access codes, even some families' smart home devices. She's been building a network of compromised systems across the entire neighborhood." From analyzing the network data, I discovered Martha had been using stolen Wi-Fi connections to access personal bank accounts through saved passwords, download confidential community financial documents, and even monitor the personal email accounts of several families. She had turned our neighborhood into her personal surveillance network. The scope of her operation was staggering. She had access to security cameras, smart doorbells. home automation systems, and even some families' computers. Martha Jenkins wasn't just a power-hungry HOA president. She was running a sophisticated cyber espionage operation right under our noses. James Wilson, the neighborhood accountant who had mysteriously been fired by Martha last year, reached out to me with crucial information. He called me one evening, his voice nervous and hesitant. "Mr. Miller, I heard about your Wi-Fi troubles. I think there's something you need to know about Martha Jenkins." He revealed that Martha had been demanding he transfer money from the HOA fund into her personal account under the pretense of centralized management. When he refused and threatened to report the irregularities, she had him removed from his position and spread rumors about his supposed incompetence and drinking problem. She told everyone I was embezzling money. James explained, his voice bitter with resentment. The truth is, I discovered she was embezzling money, and she got rid of me before I could expose her. I have copies of all the financial records if you're interested. Just when I was preparing to report everything to local authorities, Martha struck back faster than I anticipated. She filed a lawsuit against me, claiming I had illegally infiltrated the HOA network system and was conducting unauthorized cyber attacks against the community. The lawsuit was filed with great fanfare and media attention. "Local lawyer accused of cyber terrorism against own neighborhood," read the headline in our community newspaper. Martha had somehow convinced a reporter that I was the real criminal, using my legal background to cover up illegal hacking activities. The story painted me as a disgruntled resident seeking revenge against the HOA. Even worse, all the evidence of Martha's illegal network access mysteriously disappeared from the neighborhood server system overnight. The digital trails Jake had been documenting suddenly vanished, leaving us with no proof of her activities. Someone with administrative access had wiped the servers clean. It turned out that James Wilson, the person I thought was my ally, was actually working for Martha the entire time. She had instructed him to provide false information and lead me into a trap that would make me look like the criminal. Martha had been aware of every move I was making because James was reporting back to her constantly. "I'm sorry, Mr. Miller," James confessed when I confronted him. "She threatened to destroy my reputation completely if I didn't cooperate. She said she'd make sure I never worked in accounting again. I have a family to support, and I couldn't risk it." But then Susan Parker, an IT engineer who lived 3 houses down from me, approached me with game-changing information. She had been quietly monitoring unusual network activity throughout the neighborhood for months, concerned about potential security breaches affecting everyone's personal data. "I've been documenting everything," Susan told me during a secret meeting at the local coffee shop. "Martha doesn't know I exist. I keep a low profile, and she's never paid attention to me. But I've got complete evidence of her intrusions stored on a private server that she can't access." Susan showed me detailed logs, screenshots, and network analysis that proved Martha's criminal activities beyond any reasonable doubt. She had been methodically building a case, waiting for the right moment to act. "I was a cybersecurity specialist before I retired," she explained. "Old habits die hard." Working together with Jake and Susan, we uncovered Martha's real scheme. She wasn't just stealing Wi-Fi for convenience. She was redirecting $47,000 from the HOA fund into her personal accounts, using neighbors' personal information to open fraudulent credit card accounts, and creating fake violation fines to increase her personal income. "Look at this," Susan said, showing us bank records she had accessed through Martha's compromised devices. "She's been systematically draining the HOA fund for over 2 years. The money that should have been used for community improvements has been going straight into her personal checking account. The fraud was elaborate and sophisticated. Martha had created fake vendors, submitted fraudulent invoices, and even established shell companies to launder the stolen money. She had been using the HOA as her personal aid, while residents paid increasingly higher fees for services that never materialized. Most importantly, we discovered that Martha had created a surveillance system by hacking into families' security cameras through their Wi-Fi networks to collect information for blackmail purposes. She had an entire file containing secrets about dozens of families in our neighborhood, which she used to maintain control and silence anyone who questioned her authority. She knows who's having affairs, who's behind on their mortgage payments, who has teenage kids sneaking out at night. Susan explained. She's been using this information to control people through fear and intimidation. Anyone who opposes her gets targeted with her special knowledge about their private lives. But when we were preparing to take action, I discovered the most horrifying truth of all. Martha had known about my prosecutorial background from the very beginning. She had researched my career, my cases, and my methods before I even moved to the neighborhood. This wasn't a random conflict. It was a carefully planned challenge. She chose you specifically, Susan revealed, showing me emails Martha had sent to accomplices. She wanted to prove she could defeat a former prosecutor using cybercrime techniques. You were her ultimate test. If she could neutralize someone with your background and experience, she'd be untouchable. Martha had deliberately chosen me as a target to test herself and prove that she could defeat even a former senior prosecutor. This wasn't a coincidence or random harassment. It was a carefully calculated game designed to demonstrate her power over the legal system itself. I was her final boss battle, and she had been preparing for this confrontation for 3 years. I organized a special HOA meeting under the pretense of resolving our ongoing dispute. The invitation was carefully worded to sound official and important. Emergency community meeting, critical financial and security issues requiring immediate attention. I sent official invitations to all residents, stating there would be important announcements regarding neighborhood finances and network security. Martha couldn't refuse to attend because she needed to maintain her image of authority and control over the community. If she didn't show up, residents might start asking why their HOA president was avoiding a meeting about community finances. She was trapped by her own need to appear in charge of every situation. I spent days preparing my presentation, working with Jake and Susan to organize all our evidence into a compelling narrative. We had financial records, network logs, recorded conversations, and documented proof of every crime Martha had committed. This wasn't going to be a shouting match. It was going to be a systematic dismantling of her criminal empire. At the community center meeting room, Martha arrived wearing her signature tight red HOA t-shirt, her curly hair somewhat more organized than usual, but still looking frazzled around the edges. She had clearly spent time preparing for this confrontation, bringing a briefcase full of documents and her laptop computer for what she expected to be a technical discussion. She confidently declared to the assembled neighbors, "Thank you all for coming to witness David Miller's final humiliation. Today I'm going to prove that he has violated federal computer crime laws and doesn't deserve to live in this community. I have evidence that will shock you all." Sir, Martha's opening statement was full of technical jargon and legal-sounding accusations designed to confuse and intimidate the audience. She spoke about unauthorized network intrusions, cyber terrorism, and systematic attacks on community infrastructure. Her performance was polished and convincing, if you didn't know the real truth. I started with the numbers that would be hardest to deny. Martha, before we discuss network security, can you explain why the HOA fund is missing $47,000? The question caught her completely off guard. She had prepared for a technical discussion, not a financial audit. Martha immediately went on the defensive. Those are legitimate maintenance expenses that were properly approved by the board. But I presented the detailed spreadsheet that Susan had recovered, showing every fraudulent transaction over the past 2 years. The numbers were displayed on the large screen for everyone to see. These transactions show money being transferred directly into your personal bank accounts. I continued calmly. Can you explain why HOA funds for landscaping improvements went to your personal checking account instead of any landscaping company? The room fell silent as a resident studied the financial evidence. Martha's reaction was swift and predictable. David Miller is falsifying documents. He hacked into our systems to create fake evidence. Her curly hair started getting more disheveled as she became increasingly agitated, and sweat stains were becoming visible on her red HOA shirt. This is all fabricated data designed to frame me. Jake stood up next, connecting his laptop to the large screen and displaying our Wi-Fi access logs for everyone to see. Mrs. Jenkins has been using the Wi-Fi networks of at least 8 families in this neighborhood, without permission, for over 2 years. The technical evidence was undeniable and clearly documented. The list of IP addresses, connection times, and data usage patterns was displayed clearly for everyone in the room to examine. Jake had color-coded the charts to show exactly when Martha's devices were connected to each family's network, often using multiple connections simultaneously to maximize her bandwidth theft. She downloaded over 3 terabytes of data through our neighbor's internet connections, Jake explained to the stunned audience. That includes movies, software, and personal files that she had no right to access. She's been treating our entire neighborhood like a personal internet cafe. Martha was visibly shaking now. This is defamation. These numbers could easily be fabricated by someone with advanced computer skills. You can't trust anything a teenager shows you on a computer screen. Her desperation was becoming obvious to everyone in the room. Susan Parker then took the floor with her cybersecurity expertise. I'm a certified network security engineer, and I can verify that all this evidence is authentic. We also have proof that Mrs. Jenkins illegally accessed personal emails, bank accounts, and even security cameras of multiple families. The technical validation from a professional expert gave our evidence unshakable credibility. The screen displayed screenshots of personal emails that Martha had been reading without permission, along with evidence of her accessing private financial information and home security systems. Susan's presentation was methodical and thorough, leaving no room for doubt about Martha's criminal activities. Martha completely lost her composure, her red HOA t-shirt now completely soaked with perspiration. I was only protecting the community. I needed to know what was happening to keep everyone safe. These people don't understand the responsibility of leadership. Her attempts at justification only made her sound more guilty. And this, I smiled coldly, will explain exactly why you needed to know everything so desperately. I played a secret recording that Jake had captured when Martha called a data collection company, negotiating the sale of residents' personal information for $50 per profile. Her voice was clearly audible, discussing which neighbors had the most valuable financial data. The recording was devastating. Martha's voice could be heard saying things like, The family on Maple Street has excellent credit scores. Their data should be worth at least $75. The retired couple on Oak Avenue has significant investment accounts that your clients would find very interesting. The entire meeting room erupted in anger and disbelief. Neighbors who had been terrified of Martha for years were now standing up and demanding explanations. Mrs. Rodriguez shouted, "You sold my credit card information to criminals!" Mr. Thompson was furious. "So you were spying on my family through our security cameras!" People were comparing notes and realizing that their random identity theft problems, credit issues, and privacy violations all traced back to Martha's systematic data harvesting operation. The community that had feared her was now united in outrage against her criminal activities. In her desperation, Martha suddenly lunged toward Jake's computer, screaming, "I'll destroy all this fake evidence before you can use it against me." But she had no idea that everything was being live-streamed directly to the neighborhood's social media page, which Susan had set up beforehand to ensure complete transparency. Security cameras in the community center captured Martha's violent outburst, her attempt to destroy evidence, and her increasingly unhinged behavior. The live stream had over 300 viewers watching her meltdown in real time, including local reporters who had been tipped off about the meeting. When surrounded by the angry community members, Martha finally confessed everything. "I did it because I knew who David Miller really was. He used to be a prosecutor who specialized in catching people like me. I wanted to prove that I was smarter than the entire legal system. This was my final challenge before disappearing to Florida with all the money I'd earned." Her confession was complete and damning. She admitted to the financial fraud, the cyber crimes, the blackmail, and even revealed that she had been planning to flee the state once she had accumulated enough stolen money. Martha had just confessed to multiple felonies in front of dozens of witnesses and a live internet audience. The police arrived exactly on schedule, having been called in advance by Susan, and Martha Jenkins was arrested on the spot with dozens of charges pending. The live stream, with over 500 viewers by the end, had recorded her entire confession and arrest for the permanent record. As the handcuffs clicked into place, Martha's final words were, "You have no idea how many other neighborhoods I've done this to. David Miller just got lucky because his son knew about computers. The rest of you were too stupid to ever figure it out." Martha Jenkins was sentenced to 5 years in federal prison on multiple charges: wire fraud, illegal computer system intrusion, identity theft, embezzlement, and racketeering. The $47,000 was returned in full to the HOA fund, along with $23,000 in damages compensation for affected families. The Willowbrook neighborhood established a completely new HOA system with transparent regulations. Susan Parker was elected as the new HOA president, with a commitment to making all financial decisions completely public. A resident's Bill of Rights was passed to ensure privacy protection and prevent any future abuse of power. The community asked me to serve as legal advisor for the new HOA system, but I politely declined the formal position. Instead, I established a free legal consultation service for residents facing HOA disputes throughout the entire city. Jake volunteers his technical expertise to help families secure their networks and protect their digital privacy. Our story was featured in the local newspaper with the headline, "Former Prosecutor and Tech Genius Son Expose HOA Conspiracy." Many other neighborhoods began auditing their own management systems after reading about our experience, leading to several other corrupt HOA officials being removed from power. Jake decided to pursue a degree in cybersecurity at the university with a full scholarship. He told me, "Dad, I want to become someone who protects technology the same way you protected justice." As for me, after years of early retirement, I had rediscovered my life's purpose through helping our community fight back against corruption. Mrs. Rodriguez, who had been the most afraid of Martha, now regularly brings over homemade cookies and says, "Thank you for saving us from that monster." Mr. Thompson established a new neighborhood watch group to protect each other from people who abuse positions of power. 6 months later, the neighborhood organized a Willowbrook Freedom Day festival to celebrate our liberation from Martha's tyrannical rule. In the community garden funded by the money recovered from Martha's accounts, there's a small bronze plaque with the inscription, "To remember that justice can come from the most unexpected places. Sometimes it just takes one Wi-Fi password change." As I sit on my front porch in the evening, watching Jake help neighbors set up secure network systems, I realize that sometimes the smallest battles lead to the most meaningful victories. Martha thought that targeting a retired lawyer would be an easy game for her to win. She had no idea that justice never really retires. It just waits for the right moment to shine brightly again. And every time I see the Wi-Fi network, HOA is corrupt, on our neighborhood's network list, Jake kept that name as a permanent reminder, I smile and think, sometimes the biggest changes start with the smallest actions, like an 18-year-old boy deciding to change a Wi-Fi password. The lesson of our story isn't just about technology or legal battles. It's about communities coming together to protect each other from those who would abuse their trust and authority.